Hi, everyone. It's me, Krylios, Team Racing Productions MC and producer. And it's my pleasure to welcome to our YouTube channel today, Jon Baron. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Certainly, it's a pleasure having you here with us. So let's start out with a little introduction of yourself for our audience.
Okay, so I'm Jon Baron, Democratic candidate for governor. I've a longtime Maryland resident. I've lived here 27 years in Montgomery County, spent most of my childhood here, raised our children here. I actually live about 2 miles down the street from the house where I grew up.
Oh, wow.
And I went to the same public schools my kids went to. As far as my career, I'm a government reformer who has led the charge to increase the effectiveness of government through evidence about what actually works to improve people's lives. So in the Clinton administration, as an official in the Clinton administration, I headed roughly $1 billion technology program, and I won awards for reinventing government. Later, I left the government. I founded and ran a nonprofit for 15 years that worked with the Bush and Obama administrations to get a number of major reforms in social spending programs enacted into law, in education and other areas. Most recently, I headed the largest philanthropic initiative in the country that identifies and expands proven effective social programs. I've been an appointee of Democratic and Republican presidents and confirmed twice by the Senate.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. So you said 27 years in Montgomery County. What has made you decide at this specific point? What made you feel like the right time to run for governor of Maryland?
Well, I've thought about it for some time. And the issue that's driving me is that in many key areas, on many, big, long-standing problems in our state, we're just not making progress. So, for example, the poverty rate in Maryland today is 9%. You want to take a wild guess what it was in 1995?
I'm not sure. How much was it?
Okay, who's interviewing who here, right? It was 9%. It was exactly the same. And the reason is that for low and moderate income Marylanders, they've seen flat wages for several decades while income inequality has been growing. In education, more than a quarter of middle school students in Maryland cannot read at a basic level. More than a third can't do basic math. You know what those numbers were 20 years ago?
Probably the same as they are now.
That's exactly right. In other areas, we're in the midst of the worst drug abuse epidemic in Maryland's history, with we have the fourth highest overdose death rate in the country. In some areas, we've made progress. The rate of violent crime is much lower than it was in the 1990s, for instance. But even there, we've seen some backsliding over the past 5 or 6 years. And all the problems I just described are that much worse for Marylanders of color. It seems like everybody's had a plan to solve these problems, but here we are. It is decades later. We are still mired in the same problems. Clearly, we need to do something very different.
Yeah.
That's why I'm running, and that's what I'm offering, a very different approach to solving these problems.
Certainly. So you've clearly identified these problems. So tell me some of these problems, like maybe the top 3 that, you've seen people talk about, they've tried to tackle year after year, election cycle after election cycle, but nothing has really gotten done. Talk to me about these problems and how you intend to come with a different approach to make them work.
So I've been on a mission in my career, this government reform mission, to find effective new ways to solve these longstanding challenges. I'm getting a little bit of an echo here. I don't know if that's on there we go. I founded my nonprofit back in 2001, which pioneered a different way forward, where we rigorously test many different solutions in education and jobs and other areas, many different solutions, and expand those that are most effective. That's the basic concept. And we worked with the Bush administration, the Obama administration. We got that concept, major reforms enacted into law in a number of different areas, in early childhood, in education, in employment and training, different areas that produce big gains in those areas, particularly for underserved populations. Now I want to bring this evidence-based approach to Maryland. So the three areas that I'm focused on primarily, but not exclusively, are education, jobs, and healthcare. And let me give you an example of what I would do, say, in education, how this approach would be different. We would, as governor, I would do what's proven to work. Like in education, providing high-quality tutoring to every struggling first and second grader in the entire state of Maryland. It's been shown in many different studies to move them up toward grade level early before their problems become serious in later grades. And we would do it by engaging the community, by recruiting and training people from, the community, retirees, recent college graduates, to become tutors for a modest stipend as a public service. Essentially, this would be a community-wide effort, a statewide effort to make sure that every child in Maryland starts their educational journey with success. So that's one example in education. I've got, can I give you one other example in jobs?
Oh yeah, sure. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Good. One of my other main initiatives would be to partner with businesses across the state of Maryland to provide effective job training to every young adult in Maryland who wants to advance. Studies show that many job training programs are actually not effective, but certain types of programs really are. The key is to focus that training on fast-growing sectors of the economy, like information technology or healthcare, where there are many jobs, they're in very high demand. And the second key piece is to work very closely with local employers to design the training so it meets the employer's needs. And then the employers provide paid internships to the trainees. So under my plan, the state is going to pay for the training. The businesses will pay for the internships. The economy gets skilled workers. Everybody benefits.
Certainly. Well, if the audience were to look forward into the future and you were elected as the next governor of Maryland, let's say in the first 6 months, what will the difference be, or what will differentiate the Baron era from the current Hogan era of Maryland? Within those first 6 months, what can the residents feel or experience or know, or what will they realize that will really differentiate, your era of governorship from Governor Hogan currently?
Well, there are certain things that I respect about the Hogan administration. Let me say that. I respect the fact that he stood up to Donald Trump. Unlike many others, that took some courage. I do like his bipartisan approach, but he is not an activist governor. I mean, on all the problems I just described, I'm a Democrat. I'm a lifelong Democrat because I believe strongly in the goals and values of the Democratic Party. I mean, including an activist government that's trying to do big things like close social and racial gaps in education and wages and economic opportunity in healthcare, providing opportunity for all, not just the privileged few, and, to take on big problems like breaking the cycle of poverty. Governor Hogan's administration has not done that. And there's not really an effort to try to be an activist government that's trying to do big things. So that would be one thing that would be very different. I think what would mark the beginning of the first 6 months of my administration would be an effort to expand the kind of proven effective programs that I described, tutoring statewide, so that really every child who gets that. The job training to do that on a major scale. There are other proven programs, things like career academies and high poverty schools have been shown very effective at increasing opportunity, producing long-term wage gains, expanding KIPP public charter schools. So that's what I would try to do. Now, let me mention one other thing. You asked, how would I differ from the Hogan administration? Let me say how I would differ from the other candidates, the other Democratic candidates.
Yes.
All the Democratic candidates, we all want to improve education and jobs. And here's how I'm different. I recognize that to achieve those goals, it is not enough to simply roll out yet another unproven plan or program. Because however well-intentioned, many programs just don't work. I mean, we've seen that again and again when the results are actually measured. So to make progress on these problems, we have to zero in on solutions that have been tested in the real world and shown to produce a big improvement in people's lives, like the ones I described. That otherwise, we're just spinning wheels, and we'll be here in another 20 years, and we'll be looking at the same problems and having the same conversation. Maybe you'll have a little more gray hair. I'll have more gray hair. We really want to make progress. These are things that have been around. These problems have been around for a long time. We've got to take a very different approach.
Certainly. And progress is important. And so I want to ask a question that's actually personal to me because I am from Montgomery County. The Purple Line. If you were elected, could we see some real, something happening some progress happening with the Purple Line that has been promised for so long and now it's been stalled indefinitely, it seems. Could we see some movement forward on the Purple Line?
Yes. Here's my thought. I'm a very strong supporter of the Purple Line. There are a lot of people who would benefit, and this is clean, both from improved traffic congestion, and this is clean energy. It's the wave of the future. There's absolutely a need for this, and I'm a very strong supporter of the Purple Line and mass transit more generally. One of the problems, with the Purple Line is the way it's been administered. I mean, it's already, I think, close to $1 billion. It's 2 years overdue. Delayed, and I think about $1 billion over budget. One of the things that I think is very important in doing big infrastructure projects like this, there's a incentive when contractors are bidding on the projects like this to underbid, to put in a great looking proposal, underbid, and know that the government is going to come in because their hands are tied later once they've signed the contract and is going to pay for the cost overruns and the whatever. So one thing that I would do, and this, I mentioned I headed a major technology program. It was at the Department of Defense. It was $1 billion program, and one thing that I learned in that context and that I think would be very important is when you choose the folks who are going to, the contractors who are going to build these major projects, it is important to have people, and particularly, the team that is leading it, not just a team that has promised, that has a proposal that looks good on paper. Do they have a track record when they've done other major infrastructure projects around the country or around the world of finishing on time and within budget? So you're not looking at just what the promises are. You're really putting a very strong emphasis on past performance. Have they done it? Have they done it again and again? There's some companies that are extremely good at that, and there are many companies that are not. And so that's sort of the general approach I would take on the Purple Line to get things in order, and more generally on major infrastructure projects.
Certainly. And so for the viewers who are wondering, when does voting start for this particular race?
So June of 2022. We're still in the early stage of the race. That's when the primary takes place. And early voting takes place before that. And then the general election is in November.
Certainly. And so for viewers who want to make sure that they're all ready to vote by the time 2022 comes around, if you want to check your status, pledge to vote, and register to vote, you can text Team Racine to 40649. Once again, that's Team Racine to 40649. And Jon, how can people follow you, keep up with you, learn more information, support your campaign, volunteer, anything like that? How are they able to do that?
Thanks for asking. The main way to do it is through our website, jonbaron.com. Now, Jon Baron is spelled without an H, Jon, and Baron is Baron, jonbaron.com. And you can follow us on Twitter and other social media. My handle is Jon Baron, the number 4, and then the letters MD, standing for Maryland. So Jon Baron for Maryland, MD.
Thank you, Jon. And to our viewers, those links will be in the descriptions below. Jon, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been such a pleasure getting to chat with you, and I wish you all the best on your campaign.
Thanks very much. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and your viewers. You've been a very gracious host, and I hope we can do it again soon.
Thank you. I look forward to it. Viewers, please follow us on social media. And once again, thank you for watching. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.